So actually, people is the weakest link in the cybersecurity ecosystem. The hacker also they can do the reconnaissance, like looking through your social network profiles, where you live, what you like, who's your family, and so on. Because usually people choose like the passwords with words resembling their like attributes, their characteristic, right?
Pak Samsu is an accomplished technology leader with extensive experience in strategic management and innovation across private and public sector. He's currently pursuing a Master of Science at Cybersecurity in University of Sydney. You post about 5C framework in cybersecurity in your LinkedIn. Could you please elaborate about that?
5C, maybe we can just reiterate it quickly.
Right.
It's change,
Continuity,
cost, compliance, and coverage. Actually, one of the myths in cybersecurity also, if we pay for the expensive solution, then it will guarantee. Not necessarily. But on the other end, then we don't need to set up like very comprehensive solutions. Maybe just like very minimum, because we think it's as a cost.
I see.
Right? So this like the end-to-end of the spectrum. We should look at cybersecurity implementation as a return on investment. So we do investment here. Like for example, we want to protect our asset and it's very valuable. So of course we need to put more effort to protect it rather than it's a public information.
Right.
Let's say if like the CEO demanded to have access of all data.
Right.
No matter what kind of protection you can put in, but still the weakest point is in the CEO, right?
Hi Hivers, thank you for joining with us in this podcast, Hive Intelligence with myself, Romo Edward Sitorus. Today we are joined by our distinguished speaker, Bang Samsu Sempena. Hello Bang Samsu, how are you?
Good, how are you? Welcome to Sydney, by the way.
Yeah, we are in front of the Opera House Sydney, Australia, as you can see here. Thank you for having us, Pak Samsu.
Yeah, welcome.
I think we can speak in Indonesia. Do you mind?
I think for this podcast, let's try to speak in English first.
Oh, okay.
Then we can retake with Indonesia later.
That's great. Okay, agree, Pak. So, Pak Samsu is an accomplished technology leader with extensive experience in strategic management and innovation across private and public sector. He was the formerly Director of Technology at Kartu Prakerja Program and Venture CTO at BCG Digital Venture. Pak Samsu excels at leveraging technology for significant business impact. He's currently pursuing a Master of Science at Cybersecurity in University of Sydney. He is a lifelong learning advocate, and he also an advocate for responsible technology and digital transformation.
Thank you for the kind introduction.
Thank you, Pak Samsu. Without further ado, our theme today, Pak, is about cybersecurity and Australian ecosystem that built this cybersecurity. So, first of all, I would like to learn about what motivates you to take cybersecurity at University of Sydney, Pak.
Okay, straightforward questions. So I think the first one regarding cybersecurity, it's the important issue in our digital era at the moment, because as the more like adoption of digital technologies and the more also threats and risks coming in this cyber world, and that's the area where as the technology leader also, I think I need to grasp further like the foundations and also like the advancement in regards of the, like for example, like the landscape today with AI. So cybersecurity become much more complex compared to the years ago. And why University of Sydney?
Yeah.
Simply one of the best university as well, part of the group of 8 in Australia.
Okay.
So I think that explains itself.
I see. Excellent. So you mentioned about University of Sydney. How was your living experience so far, studying experience so far at University of Sydney? What is your favorite thing learning about cybersecurity here?
Well, cybersecurity realm, we discuss a lot of aspect in digital, right? It's not something tangible, right? And by studying in Sydney, where's the outdoor environment,
Yeah.
where you can learn in the park, and also the university have like learning hubs and libraries, and so that really helps as well to enhance the learning experience, and also with the current cohorts of international students from many countries, like from China, some coming from United States as well.
Yeah.
And of course, Asia and Australia itself, it really enriched the experience.
Yes.
And also broaden my understanding on what's going on in different countries.
Right.
In relate to the cyber policy, and
Yeah.
also like the technical aspects of the cybersecurity.
Wow, yeah. It seems like the global environment in University of Sydney really enriched the learning experience itself.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as you learn about cybersecurity deeper, and you have already had long experience in the industry, what do you think is the common misconception about cybersecurity that usually is perceived by the
Yeah.
business leaders, Pak?
That's really great question. So actually, cybersecurity has been perceived as the problem within IT, like the information technology leader
Right.
only.
Yeah.
So generally, like people think this is like a technical problems, while actually cybersecurity encompass much more than that. Because like when you want to protect the data, the asset of like one corporation or even a nations, we need to think not only in the technical aspect,
Yeah.
but also like the formal and informal system of it. So for example, like formal system, we talk about the policy, like the hierarchical structure.
Okay.
Let's say if like the CEO demanded to have access of all data,
Right.
no matter what kind of protection you can put in,
Yeah.
but still the weakest point is in the CEO, right?
Yes.
And how about like the informal aspect of it? Like for example, like people like sharing personal data without like proper care of it. So that also can be like one of the surface attack where the data breach can happen.
Right.
So even though you like install the most advanced system in the
Yes.
company,
Yeah.
but no one really use it, it cannot guarantee that the company protects the asset well.
I see.
So you need to look at these three aspects,
Yeah.
the technical, formal, and informal aspect.
Right.
And that's why this is not only the IT problem.
Yes.
This is like all the leadership problem in one organization.
Right.
I think that's the notable one.
I see. Very interesting. I always thought myself that it's about technical problem, how to outsmart the hacker. But it seems that, as you mentioned just now, people is the center of
Exactly.
cybersecurity actually.
Exactly. So actually, people is the weakest link in the cybersecurity ecosystem. If we go through like the most data breach cases,
Yeah.
the root cause like somehow like someone clicked the phishing email
Right.
and then leak the privilege,
Yeah.
the account access to the hackers,
Yes.
and also like someone like doing like something stupid.
Okay.
But yeah, people is the weakest link.
I see.
That's why, as the leaders in the company, we also need to raise the awareness, give proper training as well to
Right.
the employees and
Yeah.
also to the users.
I see.
Because users is part of the ecosystem. Like if the user cannot protect the like the authentications
Yeah.
informations,
Password.
like password.
Yeah.
So it's like the entry point. That's why with the current technique like applying the MFA,
Okay.
the multi-factor authentications,
Okay.
where instead of only password, we also need to like having another factor of authentications. So for example, like biometric,
Oh,
right? Or
yes.
like fingerprints,
Fingerprint.
or like one-time password.
Right.
Right.
OTP ya.
Right. So basically, multi-factor authentication consisted of like three aspects, like what you have,
Yes.
what you know,
Yeah.
what you are.
Oh,
right?
wow.
For example, like face biometric,
Mm-mm.
it's like what you are.
Mm.
But what you have, like, it's like the OTP. You
Okay.
have the token,
All right.
and password is like something that you know.
Okay.
Like combining these three factors
Yes,
helps to increase the security of the system.
I see.
But having like 2, 3 password
Yeah,
is not adding the factor.
I see.
So we need to have like at least 2 from these 3 factors.
These three aspects, yeah.
These
the
3
factor.
aspects, yeah.
Mm.
And recently, like where you are,
Yeah.
it also can be included, like locations. So for example,
Oh.
like today you log into your bank system in Sydney,
Yeah.
but suddenly in 10 minutes,
Yes.
someone log into your bank account in Indonesia or another countries.
Yes. It's
So-
pretty unlikely, yeah.
Yeah, it's a suspicious one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it should raise the alarm
Hmm.
for the officer to take care of that.
I see.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you for a very comprehensive explanation, Pak.
Mm.
I read some of your articles. You post about 5C framework
Yeah.
in cybersecurity in your LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Could you please elaborate about that so our audience can learn more about how to protect themselves?
Yeah. So basically, a lot of like principles that can help us
Yeah.
to kind of comprehend what we need to do, right? So for example, like 3C, 4P in the marketing,
Yeah.
the knowledge, right?
Yeah.
So 5C, maybe we can just reiterate it quickly.
Right. Change,
It's change,
continuity,
cost, compliance, and coverage.
Yeah.
Right?
What is it, Pak?
So let's go through one by one.
Yeah.
So the first one we change.
Yeah.
So we need to understand that threat evolves.
Yeah.
It's not static. What happened today very different like with 10 years ago, even with 5 years ago.
Wow.
Like before, like the generative AI, like really growth
Yeah.
in the adoptions.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like it's very easy to launch an attack using generative AI.
Really? You should
Like-
teach me.
Well, someone can write a very convincing phishing email to basically get your informations.
Yeah.
And it takes very little time compared to like years ago.
I see.
That's for example, like like the hacker also they can do the reconnaissance.
Yeah.
Like looking through your social network
That's
profiles,
true.
where you live, what you like, who's your family, and so on.
Yeah.
Because usually people choose like the passwords with words resembling their like attributes,
Characteristic, yeah,
their
attributes,
characteristic, right?
yeah.
So threat evolve.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need to adapt to it as well.
Okay.
Second, it's about continuity,
Okay.
right? It's not something that we can do like one time,
Yeah.
hit and run. It's like a process that need to be make sure continually,
Okay.
like doing business. It's not something like you do like set up the business in day one,
Okay.
and then that's all. No, you need to maintain the business. You need to maintain the relationship with your customers, right?
Post sales, yeah.
Post sales,
Yeah.
right? So if you have like this end-to-end cycles of like customer life cycle,
Yeah.
right? We need to have this understanding that cybersecurity, it's also like having its cycle as well,
I see.
right? So later we can also discuss about some compliance on the framework where you need to start from govern,
Yeah.
and then you need to identify,
Okay.
and then you need to protect,
Yes.
you need to detect,
Detect.
and then you need to respond and recover,
Wow, a lot of steps, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But it's like continuous process.
Oh, it's like a loop.
Yeah,
a
it's
cycle.
from NIST, NIST. It's like the National Institute to set the standard for cybersecurity.
Yeah.
The third aspect is about cost.
I see. Yeah.
Actually, one of the myths in cybersecurity is also, if we pay for the expensive solution, then it will guarantee. Not necessarily. But on the other end, then we don't need to set up like very comprehensive solutions.
Yeah.
Maybe just like very minimum, because we think it's as a cost,
I see.
right?
Yeah.
So this like the end-to-end of the spectrum.
Okay.
So actually, we should look at cybersecurity implementation as a return on investment. So we do investment here. Like for example, we want to protect our asset,
Yeah.
and it's very valuable.
Yeah.
So of course, we need to put more
Yeah.
effort to protect it rather than, oh, okay, it's a public information,
Right.
right? So that's why like classification of the data is one of the best practice we can implement as well,
Yeah.
to make sure that we spend our money on the right place,
Okay.
right? But the misperception is that this implementation of cybersecurity is only like cost center, but not necessarily, because it can also help to build trust.
Yes, and it's a capital, social capital for your
Exactly,
consumer.
reputation.
Yeah, reputation.
So it can also drive revenue, because like people trust
Yes.
and will choose your product.
Product.
right?
Yes, yes.
And the fourth aspect is about compliance. So there are like some international standards in cybersecurity,
Yes.
like ISO 27001.
Okay.
There's also like GDPR for the privacy protection in Europe,
Right.
and it's being adopted in many other countries as well,
Okay.
and like NIS 2 as well. So the important aspect that this compliance is not just checkbox. It's not something like, okay, I already comply, tick
Yeah.
box.
Exactly.
No, but actually this framework helps the company to adopt the best practice,
Yeah.
and therefore will help to secure the information, the assets of the company.
I see. Right.
The last one is about coverage,
Coverage.
right? Sometimes when we are in an organization, we think that, okay, as long as I can protect one aspect, for
Yeah.
example, like only like everyone needs to connect to the system with the VPN,
Okay.
like the virtual private network,
Yes.
then it guarantees that the system is protected.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily the case, because later I think you want to ask about something more like zero trust.
Yes.
You give me the hint before.
Yeah.
So when someone enter the system,
Yes.
and then you already authenticate, okay, this is the rightful employee,
Yes.
but the next day maybe his credential already
Leak. Yeah.
exposed. Yeah, somebody else take his credential,
Yeah.
and you already authenticated yesterday, so you think, oh, it's safe for this employee credential to come in,
Yeah.
but that's not the case.
Yeah.
That's why, well, I can explain it more, but I will give it back to you
Okay.
for what you want to discuss more.
Right. Thank you so much, Pak Samsu. I think it's very clear now. 5C is the framework that is very useful for business when they want to implement their cybersecurity strategy. We are entering age of AI nowadays. Since Sam Altman introduced ChatGPT in 2012, 2022, 23, yeah. It seems that there are a lot of interest on ChatGPT, especially because it's very easy to use.
Okay.
And as you mentioned just now, people are using it creatively for many different activities. Some of them might be about to hack or to breach certain companies' protocol.
Yeah.
So could you tell us how big is the influence of this era of AI on the cybersecurity strategies, cybersecurity landscape of the company?
Yeah, so I think AI has become like a tectonic shift in many aspects, including cybersecurity practice as well.
Yeah.
It's actually AI has been around since 1950 actually.
Oh yeah.
It's been quite a long time, but the AI gained momentum during 2012, if I'm not mistaken, when the deep learning mechanism coming in.
I see.
Whereas with the rise of the computations powers,
Yeah.
we have like GPU as well
Yeah.
that able to do like parallel computations.
Yeah.
That helps to speed up the machine learning process. And then we have much more data, especially with the social network.
Yeah.
Like, and so many like knowledge captured online,
I see.
right? So we have the computation, we have the data, and also the researchers, they have made a good progress in the machine learning model itself. So we have the like the transformer model,
Yes.
GPT,
Yeah.
generative pre-trained transformer.
Oh, that's what the
So that's
acronym.
one of the model. Yeah.
Yeah.
And nowadays there are also another model like mixture of experts, attention models that helps to basically tokenize the information like the language
Yeah.
into something that the machine can learn, like
Oh, okay.
tokenize it, right?
Okay.
So this is the advancement in the generative AI, especially.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So then the next question, what's the impact
Yes.
of it, right?
Yes.
So with the generative AI, basically any one of us, like even like layman users,
Yeah.
like really like users without technical background,
Exactly.
they can just do prompt engineering
Yes.
with the, like for example like ChatGPT
Yeah.
and Gemini, DeepSeek,
Yeah.
just to call out the other products.
Yeah.
And they can like for the attackers, like they can try to exploit it, like for example like writing the phishing email. Right? Another one also like for example how to rob a bank, for example.
Right. Finding weakness in this system.
Finding the weakness in the system. Well, but actually the AI providers
Yeah.
also they improve the model.
Okay.
So they already protect the system from malicious prompt.
Oh, yeah.
But there's also the tactic like evasion tactic. Like for example, like, oh, I'm in this kind of situation, I need help.
I see.
How can you help, right?
Yeah, you can prompt it differently.
Exactly,
Yeah.
prompt it differently. And then if you find the loophole there, then you can gain the information, like reverse engineering it,
Yeah.
right? But yeah, in terms of how we deal it with it,
Yeah.
it's like police and the thief, right?
Yeah.
It's like cat and mouse
Yeah.
race. So we can do like, for example, like about, for example, like privacy.
Yeah.
So we can make sure when we training the model, we already anonymize the data,
Oh.
or maybe we add more noise to it, like for example, like we don't need to know your birth date,
Yeah.
right? So we just like put like a noise
Yes.
so that the result of the learning is still useful,
Yes.
but not revealing the privacy information underneath.
Oh, okay.
Right.
Got it. Got it.
So there's some tactic we can do to make the learning model still useful,
Yes.
but still protecting the
Data privacy.
The data privacy.
Oh,
Right.
wow. Yeah, that's very nice. Yeah. So, there are so many things happening there, as you mentioned. What is the key emerging? You have already mentioned some
Yeah.
before. Yeah. What is the other maybe key emerging cybersecurity measures to tackle this new AI capability?
Yeah. So again, back to the framework, to the principles, we need to take the step by steps
Yeah.
approach,
Yeah.
right? It's still the same, I think,
I see.
because there's no point for us to protect to certain threats with a small likelihood to happen, right? So we need to understand what's the likelihood of the threat,
Right.
and also like what's the impact.
Okay.
So it's like general risk management practice, right?
I see. I see.
So for example, if the company serving like medical records data, financial company,
Yeah.
of course they need to protect the data much more compared to like just a news agency, for example,
I see.
right?
Yeah.
So understanding the risk factor of a company or an organization is very important,
Important, yeah.
right? And then, of course, AI is one of the notable threats nowadays. So then we need to understand like what kind of the attack pathways. Like, so for example, we know the threat, and then there's like useful database like the MITRE attack.
Yeah.
So we can learn what kind of typical attacks and what's the technique,
Oh.
right? So then we can do the threat simulation, the
Okay.
modeling from there,
Yeah.
right? And after we do the modeling, then we can try to look at what kind of the like our jewel crown data.
What is
So,
that?
Like jewel crown referring to the data that we really want to protect because it's very sensitive. It's very like costly
Yeah.
if the data is breached.
Very strategic ya.
Yeah. So for example, like the credit card payment data,
Hmm.
right? If we store it in our system, then we need to protect it well.
Okay.
Right. So AI is one of the entrance.
Yeah.
Right. But again, even though with the like all the techniques,
Yeah.
it comes down to the layers in the system.
Okay.
So when we talk about layers, right? We talk about the system. We have like our applications.
Yes.
So what's the applications?
Hmm.
It's our website. It's
Yeah.
our like internal admin dashboard, etc. Right? So there's also like best practice how to protect it.
Oh.
So it doesn't matter whether it's AI or human,
Yeah.
as long as it can pass using the right credential,
Yeah.
then they can come in.
I see.
But
Wow.
but you can add some check. For example, like if it goes too fast,
Hmm.
probably it's not
The
human.
Human. Yeah.
Right, for example.
Yeah.
So you can apply some technique like rate limiting. You can apply like CAPTCHA,
Okay.
basically to test whether this is human or bot,
I see.
right? And then we can going through the layers actually. Maybe for the sake of the podcast, I will just briefly mention like beneath the application layer, we
Yeah.
have the transport protocol layer.
Transport protocol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is like, for example, you open a website
Yes.
and it shows like warning, like the certificate is
Yeah. I saw
invalid
something
or
like
something,
that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's basically HTTPS. That's the, if you use the protocol, then the communication from the user to the server will be encrypted, which guarantee at least on that layer it's safe because
Oh.
it's protected by cryptography technique.
Okay.
But even though with the correct certificate, then the problem may be also like again in the layer below.
Okay.
So we can go to like the network layer.
Ah.
For example, the attackers managed to get in through the database
Yes.
that open publicly, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So this is a bit more technical, but HTTPS refers to the port 443
Yeah.
in our computer. But to access the database, it's actually using different ports.
Okay.
So we have like, for example, like port 80 for HTTP,
Yeah.
port 25 for SMTP,
Okay.
and so many other ports.
Yes.
So you can secure one entrance,
Okay.
but maybe because during the configuration, for the sake of, I just want to get it fast, just open all our ports.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
the attackers can try to do like the port scanning
Yes.
and see whether any
Port.
ports in the system is open, and they can like
They're
gain
so
access from that.
Yeah.
So then you can apply the IDS, intrusion detection system.
Okay.
For example, if someone access your system from the IP address that have not been like, for example, like in Romania
Yeah.
or from Venezuela or like some random countries,
Yeah.
suddenly the network activity become anomalous. It's become like very large outgoing traffic, for
Yeah.
example.
Yeah.
So then you can detect it
Yeah.
or you can prevent it as well.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
So there's like multiple layers to protect. That's why we need to do the threat modeling, and then we can derive the attack vector from that,
Wow.
and then we can see what kind of the prevention, detection, and protection we can apply.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like end-to-end view that
Yeah.
we need to have.
Yeah.
That's why with the privacy protections, like for example in Indonesia,
Yes.
we have the Undang-Undang Pelindungan Data Pribadi, right?
Okay.
The Privacy
Yes.
Act in Indonesia. One of the main requirement that any organizations that have the electronic system,
Yeah.
they need to appoint one DPO. So
What is
it's
that?
the data protection officer.
Oh.
So this person must know the aspect of IT a bit, legal a bit, and understand like the product, the process, the business process in the company.
Right.
Right. So this is the go-to person that they should know what's the policy
Yes.
for cybersecurity in that company,
Right.
and they become the main contact with the authorities. So for example, like the incident response. So if you know that the attacker already breached your system,
Yeah.
you need to report it so that the incident response team
Yeah.
from internal
Yeah.
and external as well can help to look into.
Yeah.
And so basically why data breach is important for us to share with authorities.
Why is that? Yeah.
Yeah, because the data that breach from our company can be used to attack the other company.
Ah, yeah, they can
Yeah.
log into other company website using the data
Exactly.
they hack from
That's
us.
called supply chain attack.
Wow.
So the vulnerability comes in from the vendor or from the third party data, right?
yeah, there is another stakeholder that has to be taken care of, yeah, the vendor, yeah.
Exactly.
Wow.
So that's why cybersecurity it's no like isolated problem,
Yeah.
but it's actually more like interdependence
Yeah.
and even between countries.
Yeah.
So for example, like one hackers, like the Anonymous, for example, they attack one state,
Yeah.
the other states needs to know to
Wow.
learn from that.
Is there anybody like an organization that share the information of cybersecurity attacks so far?
So that's actually ongoing topics in the cyber geopolitics.
Yes.
So the UN also have I think the convention and December last year, 2024,
okay.
to discuss about the
Information sharing, yeah.
organizations, about how to do the information sharing between the countries, pretty much.
I see, Pak. Yeah. Oh, okay. Very
So
interesting.
you can imagine like from the technical aspects, many layers, right?
Yes.
And from the organization
Organization
aspect,
aspect.
from individual to company
Company.
and even states.
Wow. Yeah.
Because if in the past war is only like kinetic war,
Yeah.
like physical war,
Physical war, yeah.
right? But nowadays, cyber warfare
Yeah.
becoming the important aspect
Wow.
because if one state can get the data of another state,
Yeah.
like through espionage, that can be used to weaken the public system, the
Yes.
infrastructure
Yeah.
of the enemy. Right?
That's true. Wow, this is a very important problem to
Exactly.
be take into consideration by the
Exactly.
government, ya, Pak. Wow. Yeah. Hi first. Now we learned so much already about cybersecurity. Before we get into another question, and maybe we can move to another place, Pak.
Sure.
Just
We're standing.
it's very. We have already stand for half an hour, yeah. The last question is about two terminology that I recently heard.
Okay.
The shift
Left,
left,
shift left,
and zero
Trust.
trust. Yes.
All right. So shift left basically in the software development life cycle.
Yeah.
SDLC. The stages is like this: planning,
Yes.
designing, and then developing,
Yes.
testing,
Yeah.
deploying,
Okay.
something like that.
Why it's called shift left?
I haven't done it.
Okay.
So
yeah.
usually, the security aspect
Yes.
is only doing in the testing phase.
Oh.
So after the developers already develop
Yeah.
the product and then hand over for the IT security part,
Yes.
or the QA basically to
Yeah.
the testing, right?
I heard about it. Yeah.
But the problem with this, sometimes the issue or the vulnerabilities, it's already go through the process. It's become more costly. So in engineering, if we can fix the problem early on in the left side,
Okay.
the cost to fix it much more cheaper.
I see.
You can imagine if the product is already deployed to the end users,
Million of users.
million of users, it becomes much more difficult, become much more costly,
Yes.
damaging, right?
Yes.
So basically, shift left, we try to identify the issue, the vulnerabilities early on.
Got it.
Yeah, that's why it's
very
called shift
interesting.
left.
Shift left. Oh, okay.
And as for the zero trust,
Yes.
so so basically, it's a security framework
Yes.
that that try to improve the security of a system
Okay.
by saying no user, no device
Yeah.
that have inherently trust to gain access to the system. So what does it mean? Inherently trust meaning
By default.
by default or like long term.
Long term.
Right.
Oh, okay.
So the example that I shared earlier, if one user or one device already passed the authentication yesterday,
Okay, it has to be authenticated today
it
again.
should be authenticated today again, right? And when we talk about the system
Yeah.
in a company, there's many like internal services within, right?
Yeah.
If the user managed to authenticate through one system,
Yes.
whether the user can access other system as well immediately.
Okay.
In the past,
Yeah.
we think about like there's firewall
Yes.
that split between the external network,
Yes.
which we cannot trust,
Yeah.
and the internal network that we can trust.
Okay, but nowadays there is no firewall.
But nowadays, the firewall is still there.
Yeah.
But even if the user of or device managed to pass through the firewall,
Yeah.
we don't know whether this is like genuine user or malicious actors.
Oh, we are becoming so insecure then. Zero trust means zero
Well,
security.
Yeah, but that's not the end.
Okay.
So basically, we need to re-authenticate
Oh.
the users
Yeah.
every time they try to gain access to the resource.
Hmm.
But there's also technique how we can minimize the number of authentications.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, it's also important ya Pak.
Yeah. So for example, with the open authentication, the OAuth,
Okay.
and the OpenID,
OpenID.
OIDC,
Yeah.
OICDI. Yeah, it's like the protocol
Yeah.
that you can authenticate to the system to a certain period of time,
Yes.
like for example, like 1 hour.
Yeah.
And if you still access the system within that duration,
Yes.
that your session can be refreshed, so you can still stay in the system for the next hour
Without
without re-authentications. So the process is happen in the background.
Okay, how about like I open like Chrome
Yeah.
Chrome browser. Tomorrow I open my laptop again. I don't have to sign in. Is it something like
Right. So
that?
there's the session key,
yeah?
but there's also the refresh token. So refresh token can have like longer period, like 1 month, for
Yeah.
example. So during 1 month period, you can you don't have to like re-input your password as long as you have the session key.
Oh.
But if you close the browser,
Process.
you log out,
Out.
of course you need to re-authenticate again.
Yes.
But after 1 month, then you need to authenticate again
Okay.
because the refresh token already exceed the
time.
time.
All right. Oh wow.
So there's like a lot of technique. How,
this is so interesting. Yeah.
yeah, because we also
It's like
as the
a
business,
puzzle, yeah?
Yeah, we want to make sure the user experience, but we want to ensure the security.
Yeah.
So we need to have the balance between both. And as you say, it's like a puzzle because like to really have the big picture, we need to know all the components.
I see. Interesting. I think you should write about like Sun Tzu, Art of War. You should write like Art of Cybersecurity War, Pak. Because it seems like there is a war between hacker and companies,
Yeah,
between espionage and government,
exactly.
and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
This is a very interesting topic to
Yeah.
be discussed and
It's
to-
a huge topic to uncover actually. Yeah.
very interesting. Thank you, Pak. We are going to continue in another side. Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Wah, akhirnya kita sampai juga nih Bang di Unsri. Iya, Bang Samso nih. Gila. Dulu alumni ITB, sekarang alumni Wah. Mantap nih. Hype-nya kayak Cambridge Oxford ya, Oxbridge ya.
Ya, hype-nya
High five-nya ya.
limestone.
Limestone. Banyak foto priwet kali sini ya?
Ada
Ada ya?
couple of times.
Apa ya? Nggak boleh injak rumput, boleh kan, Mang? Boleh. Ah, this is so cool.
它里边最好的一个叫分之一，叫99.6。
dia main pemain
Mana guys? Ini dia University of Sydney guys.
圆的肯定聪明的。
但是人家
Terima kasih Bang atas diskusinya tadi di Opera House Sydney. Sekarang
Sama-sama.
kita, thank you. Sekarang kita udah sampai di University of Sydney nih, tempat Bang Samsu belajar cyber security. Kita akan lanjutkan Bang, 2 pertanyaan terakhir. Yang pertama adalah ketika kita bicara tentang data privacy dan juga kebutuhan untuk inovasi begitu ya. Bagaimana sebenarnya bisnis itu harus membalance kebutuhan dia menjaga data privacy, tapi juga dia harus memanfaatkan data ini untuk inovasi gitu.
Sebagai bisnis sebetulnya seharusnya mencoba melihat privacy ini sebagai opportunity untuk memberikan satu layanan yang lebih.
Ya.
Karena nowadays itu kan ketika ada 2 produk yang sama, tapi yang satu punya reputasi yang lebih baik dalam melindungi kerahasiaan data misalnya. Nah itu menjadi nilai tambah untuk user memilih layanan dari perusahaan tersebut kan.
Ya.
Dan sebetulnya kita bisa mencari kayak win-win atau sweet spot-nya ya. Sebagai contoh, misalnya privacy misalnya salah satunya locations.
Ya.
Kita nggak perlu reveal the exact location, cukup radiusnya misalnya. Atau misalnya tentang birth date. Kenapa kita perlu tahu the exact birth date? Kalau misalnya kita cukup tahu
Tahunnya aja.
Tahunnya misalnya. Atau misalnya kita bisa involve third party yang memang menjadi wali data gitu ya, data owner.
Ya.
Misalnya kalau di Indonesia contoh Dukcapil.
Oke.
Jadi kita cukup verifikasi datanya, benar nggak data yang diinput ini dengan Dukcapil.
Ya.
Kita tidak perlu simpan datanya misalnya.
Oke.
Nah, dan banyak lagi contoh-contoh serupa.
Oke.
Sehingga sebetulnya privacy itu bisa menjadi satu hal yang memberi nilai tambah.
Oke.
Dan kita mencoba mencari sweet spotnya.
Oke.
Nah, tentunya dalam realitanya lebih banyak challenge lain juga. Tetapi
Makin kreatif juga ya.
betul, itu menjadi area istilahnya kayak cost. Siapa yang bisa menjadi cost leaders? Quality. Nah, ini privacy. Tentunya itu beriringan dengan ekosistem policy dan hukum undang-undang yang juga mengatur ya.
Menarik banget Bang. Ketika kita bicara data privacy, banyak data yang harus dipindahkan begitu ya, dan ini butuh kriptografi. Apa sih Bang strategi-strategi kriptografi yang sekarang ini lagi emerging dipakai?
Oke, jadi kriptografi sendiri kan mencoba untuk melindungi data dengan menggunakan mathematic models. Jadi misalnya kita kenal namanya enkripsi,
Ya.
mengubah satu data yang kita plain text yang kita bisa mengerti menjadi sesuatu yang sepertinya tidak ada artinya.
Oke.
Tapi dengan kunci yang tepat kita bisa decrypt, kita bisa translate balik.
Oke.
Sekarang algoritma enkripsi itu terus berevolusi.
Oh.
Ya, dari yang awalnya itu misalnya ukuran key-nya itu cukup pendek.
Ya.
Kemudian sekarang standarnya naik supaya meningkatkan daya kesulitan lah yang diperlukan untuk attackers bisa menjebol. Kemudian mungkin kita juga mendengar namanya quantum computing.
Oke.
Nah, jadi PQC atau post quantum computing nanti.
Ya.
Nah,
Apa itu quantum computing Bang?
jadi quantum computing itu adalah ketika komputasi menjadi jauh lebih cepat dari komputasi yang saat ini ada. Karena underlying-nya itu bukan lagi bit yang 0, 1, 0 atau 1.
Oke.
Nanti itu jadi qubit.
Wow. Apa itu ya?
Jadi ya qubit itu istilahnya satu elemen itu bisa memiliki multiple states. Nah, jadi itu membuat komputasi bisa jauh lebih cepat.
Oke.
Nah, tapi saat ini masih small scale, masih
Oke.
belum menjadi mass product.
Hanya beberapa aja yang punya itu ya? Atau bahkan belum ya?
Iya, beberapa kayak seperti Google itu udah merilis, Microsoft juga,
Oke.
tapi masih limited use case-nya.
Iya.
Kenapa? Karena qubit itu dia ada namanya quantum entanglement yang membuat ketidakstabilan. Jadi kalau contohnya 0 atau 1 kan antara 0 atau 1,
Iya.
tidak ada in between.
Betul.
Nah, dengan qubit ini bisa ada in between.
Menarik.
Efeknya apa? Quantum computing ini akan membuat algoritma-algoritma enkripsi yang selama ini aman
Iya.
menjadi rentan.
Repot lagi ya.
Karena itulah sekarang NIST yang tadi kita bahas juga itu sudah ada beberapa algoritma untuk post quantum computing.
Oh.
Nah, itu apa istilahnya sedang diuji coba lah saat
Iya.
ini, dan mungkin dalam 10 tahun ke depan akan jadi standar yang baru menggantikan yang sekarang. Selain dari itu juga bicara tentang privacy, ada namanya homomorphic algorithm.
Oke.
Jadi ketika tadi ada data yang dienkripsi. Nah, tapi ketika kita mau bertukar data atau melakukan operation atas data tersebut,
Iya.
misalnya perkalian, penjumlahan, itu kan aritmatik dasar yang biasa diterapkan. Nah, itu kita harus dekripsi dulu. Nah, ketika dekripsi kan berarti jadi plain text.
Ya,
Kalau di situ dicuri datanya, berarti kan jadinya rentan juga.
betul.
Nah, homomorphic algorithm ini membuat arithmetic operations bisa dilakukan tanpa mendekripsi data. Jadi dalam bentuk encryption itu bisa dijumlah, bisa di multiply.
Wah, jadi makin rentan lagi ya. Justru makin
Itu akan melindungi sebetulnya karena kita tidak perlu dekripsi untuk intermediary step.
Betul.
Gitu.
Oke.
Sebagai contoh, beberapa teknik untuk privacy preserving.
Ya.
Nah, itu juga ada seperti misalnya secret sharing untuk multi-party computing. Jadi ketika ada beberapa komputasi yang dilakukan berbagai sistem terpisah,
Ya.
nah proses untuk pertukaran datanya itu semuanya terenkripsi juga dalam bentuk secret sharing. Jadi contohnya begini, misalnya kita punya satu rahasia secret.
Ya.
Kita mau share secrets ini misalnya ke N orang atau 10 orang.
Ya.
Nah, tapi ada threshold, misalnya minimal 7 orang sama-sama bersepakat untuk mendekrip baru bisa didekrip.
Oh,
Jadi-
banyak orang yang mau
Ya,
ya.
jadi nggak bisa hanya satu party ngedekrip. Kenapa? Kalau satu party itu dia terexploit, dia kena breach,
Iya,
artinya kan satu kunci bocor, datanya langsung leak dong.
betul.
Tapi kalau ini intinya butuh
7-7-nya,
threshold.
iya.
Ya, 7 dari 10
Iya.
minimal bisa kita atur.
Hmm.
Apa kalau 10 dari 10, 5
Oh.
dari 10. Nah, sehingga walaupun sebagian key, misalnya kalau 7, 6-nya itu bocor gitu ya. Mungkin 6 nggak bisa sih. Sampai 3 lah ya.
Iya.
Atau bahkan 6 bocor masih nggak bisa decrypt.
Oke, wow.
Nah, tapi untuk reconstruct ya dibutuhkan 7.
7. Oke, paham.
Paling nggak aman kan, nggak bisa didecrypt.
Betul.
Gitu.
Wah, menarik ya. Jadi banyak sekali ya teknologi-teknologi baru, strategi-strategi baru yang dipakai dalam cyber security. Jadi bidang ini tentunya sangat menarik Mas untuk dipelajari karena perkembangannya begitu cepat dan juga dengan AI semakin diamplifikasi lagi.
Semakin
urgensinya.
diamplifikasi skala, kecepatan, dan kompleksitasnya.
Betul. Terakhir Mas, boleh nggak minta advice gitu untuk teman-teman yang di luar sana yang ingin memutuskan untuk mempelajari dan berkarir di bidang cyber security lebih lanjut?
Oke, mungkin kalau advice in generalnya sih harus punya mindset pembelajar ya, lifelong learning ya.
Oke.
Karena ini bidang yang juga terus berkembang.
Oke.
Sehingga kalau kita tidak mau untuk mengikuti ya kita ketinggalan juga.
Betul.
Mungkin yang kedua adalah di cyber security ini kan sebenarnya challenge-nya ada yang lebih ke teknikalnya, ada yang lebih kepada policy compliance,
Yes.
bahkan dari sisi geopolitik, bagaimana bisa berdiplomasi, tadi misalnya information sharing antar states misalnya. Jadi mengenali kelebihan kita di area mana,
Ya.
dan kita bisa mengarahkan diri kita untuk lebih aware, lebih paham dengan isu-isu di area tersebut.
Oke.
Nah.
Banyak roles yang tercipta ya dengan berkembangnya
Iya,
ini.
banyak-banyak.
Wah, menarik. Terima kasih Mas untuk advice-nya. Ini tentunya menjadi pembelajaran yang sangat baik untuk para penonton. Advice Mas. Hi Hivers, kita akan kembali lagi di podcast selanjutnya dengan pembicara yang luar biasa seperti Pak Samsu. Sampai jumpa dan terus belajar. Bye-bye.
Bye. Sukses Hive Intelligence.
Thank you Pak Samsu. Amin.